On my last try this video, it looks like there was a lot of people interested in the AK-47, Odin, or Bison class setups. And when I ran the poll on my community tab, the AK-47 took 55% of the vote, and there were a lot of people that left their specific classes for me to try out. So throughout today's video, we'll be taking a look at a few of those different class setups in addition to one that I actually prefer, and kind of give you guys an idea of how you should be utilizing this weapon and what are the strengths and weaknesses. And if you'd like to see another weapon in a try this class setup video, make sure you do comment that specific weapon down below so I can add it to the poll, and we'll figure out which weapon people are most interested in. So one of the main things that I think is important when it comes to talking about the AK-47 is understanding its strengths and weaknesses, so we can have a better idea of what we'd be solving for with individual attachments. So the biggest pro, in my opinion, for the AK-47 is going to be that it has a high damage profile, and if you manage to land 2 headshots, you should be able to get the 2-shot kill at pretty much any range. So even though that is the case, it's typically going to be that 3 to 4 shots to kill. And what you're going to notice with this weapon is it actually has a lot more recoil than a majority of the weapons within the game. And that's how they balance it. They also give it a little bit slower rate of fire and a smaller base magazine of only 30 rounds, which when you add all those different things together, it basically makes the AK-47 a weapon that just requires a little bit more skill than a lot of other weapons in the game. But the trade-off is that you can feel very rewarded if you actually learn how to use the weapon effectively and master that recoil. So the first class setup that we're going to look at is by JGOD, and the AK-47 class setup they have is the Spetsnaz Elite Barrel, the Skeleton Stock, Stipple Grip Tape, the 40 bullet magazines, as well as that Merc foregrip. And overall, I actually used this class setup expecting it to be fairly decent, and it ended up being the case. Obviously, I kind of have a good understanding that if someone's a little bit further away, you kind of got to do that little bit of a burst firing method because the recoil can get a little bit out of hand. So overall, I would say that this is a solid class setup that you should definitely try for yourself. Personally, I'm a fan of having optics on the AK-47, and that's not because I think the iron sights are bad, because the iron sights are actually pretty clean, they're pretty solid, and it's kind of like what we've seen in previous AK-47s. The main reason I like having that optic is the visibility with the higher than average recoil. Sometimes what will happen is even though the weapon, you're kind of controlling it, there will be visual recoil where the weapon actually kicks harder than where the actual center of the screen is going to be. You'll notice this with the Deagle, for example. If you go ahead and aim against the wall and just spam the trigger as fast as possible, the weapon will continue to shoot in the exact same spot, even though the weapon is doing this huge kicking motion. And sometimes people don't quite understand that there's a difference between actual recoil and visual recoil. Sometimes the visual recoil of certain weapons will cause you to adjust in a way that's not actually as effective as you would think. So that's why when it comes to being a little bit more accurate with particular weapons, I would definitely experiment in a custom match against the wall and see what the recoil pattern is doing, so you can make adjustments based off the actual recoil pattern instead of what the visual recoil is telling you. So obviously this takes a little bit of time, a little bit of experience, but as you practice and spend time using the weapon, it just gets all that much easier. The second class setup we'll be taking a look at is from Michael Vertu. Hopefully I said that right. And their class setup with the AK-47 is the monolithic suppressor, commando foregrip, no stock, rubberized grip tape, and the 5 milliwatt laser. And overall, I like this class setup a lot because that monolithic suppressor is going to help to keep you off the compass. If you're running it with Ghost, you're going to stay off the mini-map when you're firing your weapon and a UAV is in the air, which is always nice, especially if you jump in ground war or 10v10, where UAVs are a little bit more prevalent. And personally, I'm not the type where I'm going to hip fire all that often, so I would personally probably drop the 5 milliwatt laser for sleight of hand, the 40 round mag, or an optic. One of those 3 things would be a little bit more effective for how I would use the AK-47. And if you'll notice, I said specifically how I would use the weapon. So obviously, as you go ahead and try to adopt one of these specific class setups, doesn't mean it's set in stone that this is the absolute best class setup, because obviously everyone has a little bit different preference depending on your skill level, depending on what mode you play, depending if you play in a party or not. There's a lot of different variables on what you're going to use in your specific class setup so that you can actually maximize it towards your individual playstyle. That's always something to keep in mind. There is not a tried and true best class setup. Even when you look at the pro player class setup, there is differentiation among the pros for the exact same weapons. The next class setup we'll be looking at is from AJ, and AJ's best class setup for the AK-47 is the monolithic suppressor, the commando foregrip, skeleton stock, stipple grip tape, and either the reflex optic or fully loaded. And obviously if you're looking at the gameplay, I am using that GI mini reflex as my reflex optic. And overall, this is a nice class setup as well. It does take care of the actual slower mobility. Doesn't have that extended mag. Obviously you could drop something, maybe the commando foregrip, you can handle the recoil. You like the extra strafing speed, the skeleton stock's there for you, faster ADS. That's all good, and the monolithic suppressor, like I've already mentioned, is very effective at counteracting the compass gunfire as well as the mini-map when the UAV is in the air. Now let's go take a look at the class setup I would use for my AK-47 class setup, which is the monolithic suppressor, the Spetsnaz Elite barrel, the Merc foregrip, the 40-round mags, and the skeleton stock. This is a part where I start giving a little bit of tips and tricks on how to improve with the specific weapon and playing this specific mode. We're playing on vacant, kill confirmed, 6v6. I jump out, get this guy, it's kind of good timing. As I get in engagement with this next guy, somehow he doesn't die. I know I landed at least one bullet. He gets hit by the claymore, doesn't have EOD on, and there's no way of knowing that they have specialists equipped in this specific scenario, so that's just kind of one of those one-offs. As I'm coming out here, you can see that my teammate is watching that hallway. I have two teammates here, kind of creeping out, end up getting the shot on that guy there. Looked kind of like a headshot to me, but I'm still able to do that high damage. Looks like there's a guy down the hall. I'm just kind of pre-firing. Looks like one of my teammates took him out, and you can see where all the tags are on the left side. Just paying attention to what's going on, and I end up catching this guy as he comes through. Jump through, I snap on there, and that's one of the best parts with the AK-47 and worst parts. Obviously, the little bit higher than average recoil. I could have probably missed some shots, lost the gunfight, but you are heavily rewarded if you can manage to land those shots. I just snapped onto the guy. Pretty much every shot landed. I know the guy's coming around on this right side. Looks like I ended up hitting the shots, or at least hitting enough shots to kill him. For whatever reason, I get completely destroyed. So not sure if that's a connection thing, a lag comp, or maybe I didn't hit as many shots as I thought I did. But when I rewatched it, it looked like there was enough shots to put that player down. Now I'm grabbing that tag. Teammate ends up grabbing it. And we got to kind of just pay attention to what's going on. I snap onto that guy. The ADS is still relatively fast. That guy kind of slid out. Not sure exactly what they were thinking of doing, but that's kind of what ended up happening. I just jump out and then pre-aim the hallway. Luckily, there's a guy there, so it kind of lines up. I'm able to land the shot. There's another guy coming through. I strafe to the left before the C4 is all the way in, and then I end up igniting that so I don't have to worry about it. Guy's not really expecting me. I come through. He ends up kind of getting blocked there by that thing, and I just happen to miss my shots as the other guy comes through. So one of the things that I like to do a little bit differently is to include the deaths as part of the gameplay. I know a lot of people will cut those out just for entertainment purposes, but I think in terms of tips and tricks, you get a lot more out of it when I show the full thing. So that's what we're seeing here. I can end up taking that guy out, shoot him through the fence. And what we're going to see as I come around, I end up doing the same thing I did a little bit earlier where I took that guy out and I jump out and I just pre-aim the hallway, expecting someone to be there, and the shots already kind of lined up. And that's the benefit in getting into those habits, is because you can actually establish those good habits, which in the long run will maximize those kills while minimizing those deaths. Obviously, I was able to jump out, get the kill. That actually got me 2 kills. This guy comes through. I end up not knowing exactly where he went. Instead of chasing him down, I back off. I did land a bullet, and it looks like I end up getting the assist. As I come back through, the teammate's still in the same spot, so they deserve to die. They've been camping in that corner for like 30 seconds. I hear someone coming around. I pre-aim it as they're coming through the door, and then I take them out. I don't jump on the tag right away because I know there's a couple people outside, so I'm just playing the tag. We are a little bit ahead, and I do want to make sure I'm in a position where I'm going to win the gunfight, because I know there's multiple people out there, considering that all my teammates are within the building. So I'm just pre-aiming, playing patient. You can see how it kind of changes up the behavior a little bit, and that's where you got to be able to change those gears. Right here, I end up taking the next guy out, throw the C4, and it lines up a little bit better that time, and I get just out of there, pre-aiming where I'm expecting someone to be, rush through, looks like the tag's right there, and then I'm just kind of recycling and looping around, pre-aiming it as I come back to the hallway. I peek out, there's a guy coming up, and I actually didn't see him until I pre-aimed. This guy, I get a little bit lucky where I'm able to land those shots. It was kind of a 50-50 gunfight, but since I have a high damage weapon, I'm able to win the gunfight. Right here, I do hear some people creeping up around the left side, and I want an easy kill because I'm so close to the chopper gunner. So I take that guy out, debating if I want to jump out or not. It looks like there is a guy right there. I'm able to line up the shot, and I probably play this next sequence a little bit more aggressive than I should have. There ended up being another guy that was kind of hidden off to the side, but that still allowed me to get that VTOL. So I'm going to go ahead and call that in. even though this is not a great map unless your team is locking down the building and all the enemies are outside. So I didn't expect to get a ton of kills initially, but I thought I'd give it an attempt to kind of rush through and clear the enemies from this building so that they would spawn outside, and then my VTOL would actually do a little bit of work. And those are sometimes the things you got to think about on maps like this. Another map like that is Ramaza. There's kind of all just scattered where people could be in buildings. So those aerial streaks don't typically do very well. And then there's other matches where you have like 3 people on the enemy team. They're going for their camo challenges for the launchers. They go for those. So I take this guy out and I almost get a nice little triple. I take this guy out. The next guy's coming up. He flinches me right above his head and I end up missing one of the bullets that would have ended up finishing him off. So we're able to go 29-7 using that AK class setup. If you did enjoy the video, let me know by hitting the like button. And if you're brand new to the channel or part of the 80% that continues watching the videos but forgets to subscribe, definitely remember this time around, turn notifications on so you get alert every time a brand new video is made. We appreciate all the support on the content. Thank you for watching, and as always, have a great day.